Warning, censorship. Warning, censorship. Warning, censorship. Warning, censorship.
I saw this headline just this week, not from a year ago, but actually last Tuesday. It said, Ontario Superior Court of Justice to defer cases due to pandemic. Ontario Superior Court of Justice has directed courts to defer as many matters as possible due to the pandemic. Chief Justice Jeffrey B. Morowitz issued a notice to the profession and the public on Tuesday, saying courts should reduce the number of staff, lawyers, or parties required to leave their homes. Okay, it's been 14 months. Are you saying this branch of government, the highest paid branch, the highest status branch, the judges, they haven't figured out how to operate in the pandemic? I mean, grocery stores never closed, factories never closed, banks never closed, pharmacies never closed, construction sites never closed. I think that frankly some of the so-called COVID measures introduced by many of these companies are absurd and they're public health theater, not real medicine, but still they never closed. But now 14 months into things, the Senior Court of Ontario thinks it has to gear down because of the pandemic. Really? I double checked. I thought, no, this has got to be a year old. No. So let me show you this. There's no factual reason for this panic right now. I grabbed this from the Ontario government's official COVID stats page. I know I'm talking about Ontario, but this shows the insanity all across Canada and all around the world. Look at this. The number of hospitalizations in Ontario is pretty much stable. It bounces up and down a little bit. It's around 2,200 people. That's around 4 people per hospital in the province. Again, that's similar across Canada. The intensive care unit numbers are around 1/3 of that, so just over 1 person per hospital in intensive care. So what's the panic? The number of deaths is pretty steady. In fact, it's actually down significantly from January. Again, these stats are pretty similar across the country. So why are the Ontario courts being shut down now? Are they just moving online? Is that what's going on? They're doing Zoom calls? No. Morowitz says virtual hearings should also be deferred. What? Why? What's the problem with those? I mean, just a few months ago, I don't know if you saw this, we learned that Zoom trials are so easy to do. One Ontario judge actually went to the Caribbean and held his trials from there via Zoom. Imagine that, you're sitting on the beach in the Caribbean, and then you just hop into your cabana. Maybe you put on a robe to cover up your bathing suit. Maybe you put up a fake backdrop to make it look like some dreary Toronto landscape, and you're ruling on Ontario matters from afar. That's how easy it is to do Zoom hearings, but apparently that's not easy enough. He says courts will focus on the most serious child protection matters, urgent family matters, critical criminal matters, and urgent commercial or economic matters. Hey, what's a serious child protection matter as opposed to a non-serious one? What's a critical criminal matter as opposed to a not important one? Does it defend who the victim is if they're fancy? Of course, not a single person in our justice system, not a single person in any branch of government has been laid off during the lockdowns. Not one has lost their job, while the private sector was bulldozed. So this is basically a Trudeau, you know, when he just sort of had a staycation for a year. He wants the pay, he wants the status, but he just wants less work, you know. Even fewer Zoom calls, which you can do in the comfort of your own home. That's the lockdown class for you, right? All the money, all the power, and the pandemic is just an excuse to work less. Tell it to the grocery store cashiers. That's an excerpt from my daily show, the Ezra Levant Show. Every day I do a monologue on the news of the day, then I interview an interesting guest, and then I read my hate mail. You gotta subscribe. Go to rebelnews.com.